Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is an amazing way for you to exit cryptocurrency, businesses, commercial real estate, high-end primary homes, so you can defer millions of dollars of capital gains taxes, eliminate some estate tax, and to create and preserve more wealth, or help your friends and family and clients do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, and wealth minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Arizona, and he's the founder of Family Office Club. And they really focus like a laser on helping investors connect with over 3,000 plus other kind of accredited investors, high net worth individuals. So you can close more deals. And they do this through 15 live events a year. And today we're going to be talking about, building commercial real estate family office wealth. Please welcome to the show with me, Richard Wilson. Hey, Richard, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Brett?
I am doing great. For our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. So I started the Family Office Club 15 years ago. We have 25 people on the team. And over those 15 years, we've hosted 185 live events. I've written 13 books, and we own some of the largest media assets in the investment industry. So we own billionaires.com, where we do exclusive interviews with billionaires, including Mark Cuban a couple of weeks ago. We own commercialrealestate.com, investorclub.com, and over the time, we've built up a 2 million person social media following and have a couple 100,000 people on our email list. And so we have specialized in a few areas. And one of them is we've helped create over 200 family offices for clients from scratch. And then on the operating business side, we invest into medical practices and dental practices. And on the real estate side, Airbnb properties.
Excellent. And before we dive into some of those strategies, and I love that background, and thank you for sharing that. Really phenomenal what you've been able to achieve in that short period of time. Before we go there into how to build a commercial real estate family office wealth, I do want to take a step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given us to be a blessing and help to others. So maybe go back to the younger days, maybe your college days, Richard, or your high school days. And I want you to share with us maybe that one or two strengths you believe you were given, and how does that help, how you help and bless people today?
Sure. I think one of my strengths is looking at a lot of different variables and synthesizing what's going on to find a gap in the market. So we're really good at marketing and positioning, and we just happen to do that for 15 years in the ultra wealthy space of family offices. So the byproduct of that is a really good deal flow, always new investment structures we're learning about, new investment strategies, and then lots of relationships that we can pair up with those two. And so I think just playing a lot of sports growing up and anticipating what's coming next and where there's room, whether you're playing soccer or water polo or whatever, and using that in business to kind of spatially recognize where there's a gap in the market has been our real strength. We don't do anything that's crowded where everybody else is doing the same thing. And that's why we focused on family offices before people knew what it was. And that's why we have really unique structures for our real estate deals and medical practice deals that are different than what everyone else is doing in the space.
Love it. So looking at multiple variables and finding out what's missing. I love this sports analogy. I played basketball, football growing up, and you're always looking for an angle or a strategy or a way to do something more efficient and more impactful. So that's very cool. Let's apply that to today's topic, which is building commercial real estate family office wealth. So Richard, what's the number one secret to building commercial real estate family office wealth?
I think the number one secret is structuring deals the correct way. And the way you structure deals has to depend on who you are as a family, what your priorities are, objectives. And so it's not just, oh, here's the one magical template. It's really custom structuring and negotiating transactions to meet your needs. You could have a need just not to ever lose money. You could have a lead to, a goal to produce more income, or it could be to double your net worth. But the structure changes all of that. And a lot of families who are newly ultra wealthy don't know to negotiate their own custom structures. They don't apply their own custom structures to different situations. And so I would say that's the most important thing, because it's often overlooked. People get excited by a new strategy or something they understand or is at arm's length and they can get their arms around it. But many times they don't spend much time on the structure. And you could show me the best deal in the world, but if it's structured wrong, it could be a horrible deal. And then a mediocre deal can be made amazing if you structure it right.
Got it. So structuring deals the correct way, meaning it's customized to your goals and your objections and your your values, what you're trying to achieve. Is that a fair summary so far?
Correct.
Yeah, I've heard this saying that it's A to B, right? A is where you're at and B is where you're going. And until you have a clear vision on the B, right, then it doesn't much matter where you're going to, because it's going to be hard to get there, right? So how do you
Right.
help ultra high net worth individuals or families clarify their B, Richard?
Sure. Well, the number one step in creating your family office is having your family office dashboard put together. So we have a one-page PDF. It's an editable PDF. You can print it off or edit it and save it over time. Use that with your CPA, your spouses, your kids, your wealth advisor, et cetera. And it literally gets everybody on the same page. And by filling this out, it makes you say, who are your top service providers? What is your mission? What are your values as a family? What are your goals? What are the top pieces of deal flow you're looking at? What are your tax strategies, like DST related strategies, et cetera. And so having that done gives great clarification on where you're going, and it costs absolutely nothing. It's not software. I don't do consulting. We help set up family offices for people at no cost, because if we get to know them, we end up doing business together. And that's way more valuable than doing what we used to do, which is charge, $7,000 a month to consult with family offices. So that'd be the very first step. And we've got this free PDF dashboard on setting up your virtual or single family office. And if anyone needs that, they can just reach out and I'll shoot it over to them over email for free.
I love it. So it's actually just really simplifying things and actually writing it out, right? Sort of like when we write out our goals, but you're writing out for the family office, and then you're actually just sharing that with all of the team members, right? I think
Right.
Kevin Harrington says it well, right? You want to build up your dream team, right? So you have your CPA, you have your estate planning attorney, your financial advisor, commercial real estate syndicated and operating partners, all of the different members of the wealth team, if you will. And let's just share that document. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, that's correct. And honestly, even if you didn't share it with a single soul, it helps you get great clarity on where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to take advice from other people? If you don't have your own unique game designed to your strengths of your DNA and your background and where you want to go, then your advisor at Goldman Sachs is going to design the game board so he gets $200 every time you pass go, and you're not going to have very much fun playing his game. You're playing your game as an entrepreneur. Typically, maybe you made your money in storage, manufacturing, stem cells, maybe some other weird small niche people have never heard of, but your unique game should be custom fit to your DNA and goals and objectives and strengths, right?
I can't agree more. Excellent. So that's the number one secret, right? Which is making sure that you're structuring deals that the correct way, that's customized to your goals and your outcome. And you're clarifying your B, where you're going, writing it down, clarifying all of that. That's number one. What's the number two secret to building commercial real estate family office wealth?
Number two secret is to get access to deals first, exclusively, and at a better valuation than anybody else. If you can do that, then you are going to be able to compound your wealth over time, because the best deals have asymmetrical great returns with moderate to low risk, or low risk compared to the great upside opportunity. But a lot of investors don't see deals first, and they don't know how to position themselves to see deals first. And they oftentimes are seeing the leftovers or just the also rans of what everyone else is investing in. So we always coach our families to figure out where their focus is going to be, and then make sure they position themselves where they get to see things no one else ever gets to see.
I love that. So number two is to get access to deals first and exclusively that no one else is going to see. And then you said to position yourself. So what's the number one secret to positioning yourself to see those deals, find those deals, have those deals brought to you?
Sure. I'd look at your background and see where your strengths are. If you are a doctor, maybe you should be putting money into medical office buildings if you have an edge in that side. If you are a law firm partner or an engineer, maybe you made your money by running an engineering company, but maybe you'd be able to understand some of the risks of, construction management, or maybe you'd be able to understand local investments in your area. And if you're wealthy enough to be seen as such, grow the name of your family office locally, or your own investor club with other partners of law firms or engineering firms locally, so that people know to bring you deal flow first. And then you can typically negotiate if you're adding value or bringing in larger checks. You can negotiate a first look or a preferred return stream. A good example of that is through our Airbnb investment fund, we negotiated a 16.5% preferred return deal with a 50-50 profit split with the sponsor. And usually anything over a 10% preferred return is pretty dang good. And I've only seen over 13% once or twice. But when able to negotiate that, because of strategic value that we can add to that counterparty. On another deal, we get to invest and they're not charging any fees to us. And the property just appraised at over 2 times what we have it under contract for. We're supposed to close on that one next week. And we're not paying any fees on that deal because of the strategic value that we add to that counterparty. And so when you have a good position, you play a stronger offense and your defense is better because of how you custom structure the deal.
Yeah, I kind of caught that theme. It's like, you got to first of all identify your edge, right? What's your edge in your background and your strength and your experience, right? And kind of which goes back to the original question, what was your strength, which is looking at multiple variables to find out what's missing, right? And to take advantage of that edge. And so that's what you're teaching them to do. So you guys do the same thing. So if you're a dentist or a doctor, maybe you're going to invest in medical office and use that edge and those connections and basically that subculture of dentists or doctors or that world, to make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of when you're buying the real estate, right? And B, maybe you have more connections and relationships because at the end of the day, these relationships are going to unlock these deals, right? And then you said something else that was kind of interesting too. You said, wherever the edge is on the other side too, it's not just about, having that information or having those relationships. It's also like, how can I be a counter to help them out, right? And almost like trade. Is that, did I catch that last part correctly?
Yeah. If you can add strategic value to someone, then they're more likely to show you the deal first or give you a chunk of the deal for a better structure. And I think that's really critical. There's lots of money in the world, but who do they want to give money to? The person who can also open a door to 100 other investors or something else that's really strategic to them. So you have to figure out that edge. Otherwise, if you don't know your edge, why would someone else, show you something? Like, why would they be motivated to, right? So very simple concept, but a lot of families don't take the time to do this. And they have no big focus. They don't have an edge. They don't even know what their goals or objectives are. And I ask them what they want to invest into, and they'll say, oh, we look at all opportunities. And the reality is they don't. They've been lazy defining it. And they don't want to invest in a mobile app startup from Nicaragua. No offense to the Nicaraguans listening to this, but they don't want everything, right? They do want something that's focused, and they just haven't spent the time to save everyone else time, only sending them the best things that would fit their criteria because they haven't defined it yet.
They haven't defined it, they haven't written it down, and they haven't communicated that clearly to those that can provide that. I mean, at the end of the day, it goes back to your simple part on number one as well, right? It's writing those things down. Wow, so much value already. So that's number 2, get access to deals first exclusively and that no one else is going to see by knowing your strengths, knowing your background, and then connecting and communicating that to the other side. That is secret number 2. Let's go to the next one, Richard. What is secret number 3?
Secret number 3 for building the wealth would be to run a private equity quality deal origination process. So every private equity firm that manages billions of dollars runs this process, and no family offices run this process that I've ever met. I'm sure some do, but I've met over 3,000 in the last 15 years. And that is to basically define the universe of assets you want to buy. It could be dry cleaners in Austin or storage properties in San Diego, whatever it may be. Define that universe, and then I have a back office team in the Philippines that does this next part for me, but you define what the universe of assets would be. And then they go find the websites, social media accounts, the owners, look up in the state county records who owns those storage assets or senior living or whatever the property may be, and create that universe of assets that you want to buy. It could be 42 different assets you're targeting. It could be 400 assets you're targeting. You then write a 1.5-sentence email, reach out to them, get them on the phone, and you could say, hey, my name's Brett. I built and sold my storage platform for 9 figures to a publicly traded entity, and I'm looking to be a capital partner or buy storage assets in the Austin area. Could we get a cup of coffee or see if we could invest together or invest into your platform where I could add strategic value? And you get that down to just a sentence or 2 at the very most, ideally with a link to your website as a family office or your storage platform that you have yourself. Or a news article showing that you actually did sell your business. They know that you're legitimate. And then you get on the phone with, let's say, 10 of those 42 people. And then you figure out what 3 or 4 are investable out of those 10. And some of the other 42 will come back to you over time, reply a year later, et cetera. We did this process for one client, and we reached out to 372 leads. We got on the phone with 70 of them over 9 months. 8 were investable, and we got 3 deals done, 2 at the client. And then I invested in one of the companies myself.
Wow, that was so great. So I think I would Make sure I understand that. So define the universe of assets you want to buy. So whatever that is, the product type, the location, the geographical, even submarket of that market. Let's say it's multifamily properties in Dallas, Fort Worth, right? 50 to 300 units. Then get a list of every single one who has that and their email, and basically skip trace to find out who they are. Send a 1.5 sentence email, basically just stating your intention and what you're looking for, and see if they're just open for a conversation. You also dropped in there too, like, show that you might be interested in investing with them, which you probably are. You might even do that, right? Because a lot of people who have this wealth might also be looking for equity partners, right? Or whatever else. Also basically state, hey, I'm willing to add value to you. Is that a fair summary so far?
Yes, correct.
That reminds me of the Dream 100 strategy, right? I don't know if you've heard Expert Secrets of Russell Brunson. And basically it's the Dream 100, like who are the top 100 people if they were with you, right? That the big domino would fall and the rest would kind of follow, if you will. Essentially saying, just start at the very top. Who are the top 100 in that universe that you're trying to buy or get into for those deals, and just start targeting and talking to them. Is that a fair summary too?
That's correct.
Okay, so we've covered 3 secrets here. What other question haven't I asked you so far, or point that you want to make, Richard, to building wealth with family office wealth? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, one of the number one secrets is also free to use. I like having ideas that cost nothing, because when I started my business, I had less money in my bank account than I had due for rent that month in Harvard Square, and I started out not being able to buy things that people would recommend on podcasts like this, and so I know how that goes. So one free tool is that I have a 1-pager with my goals on it, and I have my annual, quarterly, and monthly goals, as well as my values. And then I have a bunch of one-liner statements. So with billionaires.com, I'm only reading books from billionaires this year and listening to podcast interviews with billionaires and trying to implement the types of strategies that billionaires often use. And so when doing that, I might read a really great book, and I'm not going to summarize the whole book anywhere, but if I just summarize the 2 or 3 words that Steve Schwarzman summarizes his feeling of excellence across the board in his company, if that was my main takeaway, I'll put that on my 1-pager. So every morning when I'm shaving, I see this laminated 1-pager. I see my quarterly, annual, monthly goals. I see my values. And then I have about 40 different little one-liners or short messages, which summarize the value I got from different people, coaches, mentors, books, podcasts, et cetera. And a lot of us know what we need to do. We just don't do it. But if you start every day with a lens of seeing the world through your priorities and all the advice of the people you look up to most, then everything else gets filtered by that. And it's very easy to see what's really important and what's exciting and what's a distraction.
Amazing. You can find more about Richard Wilson by going to familyoffices.com. That's familyoffices.com. And Richard, are those one-pagers, are they there to download there?
They don't, but I have the family office dashboard tool that people can get for free. And so if they're interested in the dashboard tool or the 1-pager for themselves, they can just shoot me an email. It's just richard@investorclub.com, or shoot me a text message at 305-333-1155. And they're both just free tools. So I'm happy to share that.
Excellent. I want to shift a little bit gears real fast here. I want to talk a little bit about capital gains tax. That's one of the things we're really passionate about, is giving people freedom from feeling trapped by things like 1031 exchanges or capital gains tax, or even estate tax when they go to exit highly appreciated assets, business, crypto, all this kind of thing. So I'm curious, Richard, what's the number one frustration you've seen when it comes to the 1031 exchange and or lack thereof options for exiting highly appreciated assets for yourself or for your clients or partners?
Sure. Many times, because of the deadlines around it, I see people scurrying around and they wait until the last 2 weeks, and then they're running all around looking for a solution. And then, like one time, like last week, I got a text message from someone. I texted them back to have a phone call. By the time we had a phone call, the end of their 45 days, was gone, and they had already decided, we just gave up. And so a lot of people start late in the process and they don't know who to go to or who to trust to find the assets. And then they're worried they're going to do a bad deal. And so that's probably the number one frustration, is just like when they have the need, then they're worried that they're going to do a subpar deal. And now the tax tail is wagging the dog versus the way it should be, of looking at lots of deals to find the very best deal, or doing it in a more measured manner.
Yeah, we call it the shotgun wedding, right? You got to get engaged in 45 days, married in 180. And it creates this pressure where, exactly right, you're often maybe paying higher than you would have otherwise if you just had money to purchase. On
Right.
top of that, it's seeming to be exacerbated right now because interest rates, used to be at 3.5, and now they may be 5.5, 6 or more. And so you're
Right.
trading in this 180 days, and cap rates necessarily haven't adjusted per se. Sellers' expectations maybe are still 2022 pricing, whereas 2023, a lot of buyers are in their mindset. And so this shift is happening, and people are getting caught in between. And by the way, we have a solution for that. If anyone's curious, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and you can start your deferred sales trust today. It gives you an ability to offset the need for a 1031. It can also save a failing 1031. Also works for businesses, crypto, and exiting any other position, GP or LP interest. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. But Richard, besides the 1031 exchange, what about crypto and businesses? Are there any other, maybe creative solutions that you guys are, you're seeing out there with your billionaire folks that when it comes to deferring capital gains tax or estate tax that you want to mention?
Sure. Yeah. QOZ, qualified opportunity zone investments, typically when someone has a big exit, they might put 25 to 50% maybe into a QOZ fund. They might want the rest of the money more liquid and use other tax strategies around that. And anytime you go to a tax expert before you've had a liquidity event, there's always many more options on the table. So that's one thing we've seen come up fairly often. And then, in addition to that, we just see that those who wait and do planning late just get penalized in many different ways, right? The options get closed off, the timelines get tighter, it adds to the stress. So the earlier you plan things, if you're just thinking of selling assets or thinking of selling your business, then the better things go. And you can already have options on the table by the time somebody puts down their escrow money to buy that asset from you. You're already looking at options and you can get to know the best of the best. And then people like you, Brett, people don't realize the power of a network. Many times they don't understand how deep your Rolodex and relationships go. And so if somebody needs something very particular, by running the show, you have great contacts you can help navigate just in a minute or two, where everyone else in their network combined might not have the number of relationships you have, Brett, related to capital gains tax, right? And that's one exciting thing that we're working on when we invest in medical practices or the Airbnb fund is for 15 years. We've been negotiating these deals for family offices. Sometimes they listen to our advice, sometimes not. And now we get to use those within these deals that we're closing, which makes it really exciting because the power of a network, can't really be overvalued when helping a client like what you do in the capital gains area.
Yeah, appreciate that. And we say we don't need more money, we need more people, right? The people have the money and the people have the access to the knowledge to unlock the thing that we're trying to achieve. And so you want to get a dream team. You want to have experts like Henry Ford. He'd have his Rolodex. He didn't need to have all the answers. He needed to have the card to call the person who was the expert who had all the answers, right? For that particular subject, please. So yeah, so we encourage you to build your exit plan before you exit. Build your exit plan and your strategy and map it all out, write it all down. We've been talking about this whole time. So that when you go to exit, you're not caught in the emotions of just the negotiation and the exit. You already have a plan laid out. And so it seamlessly goes in hand. And also there's certain strategies like the deferred sales trust you need to set up prior to the close of escrow. Unless you're in a 1031, then we can save a failing 1031. But yeah, so if you want to help with that, you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, we're running out of time. Richard, you ready for the lightning round?
Ready.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure you tell yourself to do?
Be more bold in decisions and aim bigger.
Question number 2, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most the past year?
What It Takes by Steve Schwarzman.
Question 3, what's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Leadership quote or theme. I think high integrity, but by the definition of integrating everything in your life. Everyone talks about how integrity is most important, but integrating the food you eat, where you live, media you consume, friends you have, people you associate with, values of your company. That definition of integrity, I think, is most critical.
Excellent. Second to last question. What are you most curious about right now?
Most curious? Let's see. Most curious. How do we add the most value to these hidden families where it's a second gen daughter or son who's in their 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, and their father or mother has made 50 or 100 million plus, and adding the most value possible to those kind of invisible leads that are all around planet Earth. And we find them in different ways, like through a book called How to Start a Family Office that we've put together, for example. But finding more ways to pull them out of the woodwork is the thing I'm most curious about. It's just kind of a fun adventure that we're working on internally.
Very cool. Last question, Richard, after all your success, helping all the millionaires and billionaires over the years, building up over 3,000 high net worth family offices. How do you stay centered in your values? What's the habit you practice? And how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach even higher heights after you've achieved so much?
Partially is my wife. She's very social, outgoing, extrovert, balanced. She's like, we don't need more money. I'm more like hard charging business person. I'm more introvert naturally. So she balances me out, and then just constantly keeping health top of mind and just knowing that, health is the most important thing. And so that helps me keep recharged and balanced, I think, between my wife, family, and health focus. And then what makes it most exciting is really seeing some billionaires who have built their wealth and not sacrificed everything along the way. And just knowing that happy and healthy is more important than super wealthy, but it can support the growth of wealth if you align everything in the right way.
Amazing. Richard Wilson, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for using your gifts, which are totally apparent after this interview for sure, which is looking at things or ideas or strategies at multiple variables and finding out what's missing, right? What's missing. And it's not only just with wealth, obviously it's with life and balance and integrity. So this was incredible. I want to encourage you to keep using that gift, help as many people as you can help. And for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Sure. Familyoffices.com is the best website, and email is just richard@investorclub.com, or shoot me a text to 305-333-1155.
Amazing. Thanks, Rich, for being on the show. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust, or getting with someone like Richard, who has some creative, amazing solutions as well, or ideas to introduce you to, or people to introduce you to, is the best way for you to create and preserve more wealth. Look, taxes are going higher. Estate taxes are not going away. You want to have a strategy. You want to have a plan to execute. If I can help you at all, I'd love the opportunity. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Also, look for the new book coming out, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. We have some really smart people in there like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, and financial advisors, commercial real estate operators, and others as well. So check that out, coming to Amazon real shortly, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy. Please rate, review, subscribe, share this so someone it could inspire today and help. And we'll talk to everyone again